They found this letter sealed in a glass bottle years after the wreck, drifting among seaweed and broken timbers far from any shore. The parchment was stained with salt and trembling ink. The first line begins like this: "If these words ever reach land, then it means the sea has chosen not to keep my final thoughts." The lantern beside me sways with the motion of the dying ship, casting long shadows across this damp page. Every few seconds, the deck groans like an old man in pain. The water has already reached the lower cabins, and the carpenter says the pumps cannot keep up any longer. I do not know how much time we have left. The storm arrived faster than any man aboard expected. At sunset, the sea had been calm enough to mirror the clouds. By nightfall, the wind came howling across the water like a pack of wolves. Now the masts scream under the strain. The ship tilts again as I write this, and the ink trembles across the paper. Somewhere above me, a sailor shouts orders, though his voice is nearly swallowed by thunder. I can hear the waves striking the hull. Each one sounds heavier than the last. Earlier tonight, just before the storm reached its worst, the captain ordered every man on deck. The sky had turned a deep, unnatural color, the kind sailors whisper about when they believe the ocean itself has grown angry. We reefed the sails as fast as frozen hands would allow. The wind tore at the canvas like claws. One of the younger boys slipped while climbing the rigging. I still remember the sound he made as he fell. No one could reach him before the sea did. The water swallowed him in a single dark motion. No prayer, no farewell, just the endless noise of the storm. I have sailed many years, and I believed I understood the ocean. But tonight the sea feels different. It does not rage like a storm alone. It feels patient, like something ancient waiting for us to surrender. The carpenter came to the captain not long ago with grim news. A seam along the hull has opened where the waves struck us broadside. The water pours through it faster than the pumps can throw it out. Men are still working the pumps even now, though many of them know it may already be too late. Their boots splash with every step. I passed them moments ago while searching for dry parchment. Their faces looked pale beneath the lantern light. One of them asked quietly if the lifeboats would hold. No one answered him. The truth is that the sea tonight would break those boats apart like toys. Another crash shakes the ship. The lantern nearly falls. For a moment the flame dims, and I fear I will be left writing in darkness. But it steadies again. The storm outside roars louder than before. Rain strikes the deck like handfuls of thrown gravel. Every now and then lightning tears open the sky, and through the hatch above me I see the ocean rising in terrible mountains of water. When those waves fall against the ship, the entire world shudders. I try not to think about how deep the ocean is beneath us. Earlier, when the storm first turned violent, I went above deck to help secure the cargo. The wind nearly tore the breath from my lungs. I saw something then I will never forget. The helmsman stood at the wheel, soaked with rain, fighting the storm with both hands. He looked as though he were wrestling a living beast. Every wave forced the ship sideways, yet he held the wheel steady as if refusing to surrender to the sea. Lightning flashed behind him, and for a moment his figure stood against the storm like a statue carved from shadow. I wondered then if this might be the last night any of us see the sunrise. The captain believes the ship may last another hour, perhaps two if the wind weakens. But I have heard sailors say that storms like this do not weaken quickly. They grow tired only after they have taken what they came for. The water is higher now. I can hear it sloshing through the passage outside this cabin. My boots are already damp. The ship leans again, harder this time. Somewhere above, a mast cracks like thunder. Men shout. The sound travels through the wood like the cry of a wounded animal. It is a strange thing to sit here writing while chaos surrounds me. Part of me wishes to be among the men on deck, hauling ropes and shouting orders. But another part of me knows this letter may become the only trace that we were ever here. If the ship sinks, the ocean will erase us without ceremony. Ships disappear every year. Names vanish from records. Families wait at harbors for sailors who never return. And after enough years pass, the world forgets they ever existed. Perhaps that is why I write, not to save myself, that hope has grown thin, but to leave behind proof that we lived, worked, and faced the sea with whatever courage we possessed. The lantern flickers again. I hear footsteps rushing past the door. Someone just shouted that the foremast has split. If that mast falls, it may tear half the deck apart. The ship shudders violently. A loose cup slides across the table and crashes against the floor. Outside, the wind roars louder than ever before. I feel the cold creeping into my bones. Still, I must continue writing while my hands remain steady enough to hold the pen. Because if this letter ever finds its way to shore, then someone, somewhere, will know what happened here tonight. The next pages of this letter were found folded tightly together, the ink darker and more hurried, as if written while the sea itself tried to tear the words away. If you are reading these lines, then the bottle has traveled farther than our ship ever did. The lantern is nearly spent now. Its light trembles across the walls of this cabin, and with every passing minute the water climbs higher along the floorboards. My boots are already soaked, and the cold of the sea creeps upward like slow fingers. The storm has not weakened. If anything, it has grown more violent. Only moments ago the foremast finally gave way. I heard the crack before I saw it, a deep, splintering roar that sounded like the breaking of a mountain. The mast collapsed across the deck, dragging torn sails and shattered rigging with it. The men nearby scattered just in time, though one sailor was struck across the shoulder and carried away by the falling canvas. I do not know if he survived. The ship now moves differently beneath my feet. She does not ride the waves anymore. She sinks through them. Each swell pushes her lower into the sea, and each time she rises again it feels slower, heavier, like a wounded animal struggling to stand. The carpenter returned a short while ago with the final truth none of us wished to hear. The hull is failing. The crack has widened beneath the waterline, and the pumps cannot keep the rising sea at bay. Men still work them with desperate rhythm, though the water climbs past their knees. Some pray while they pump, others say nothing at all. I walked the deck one last time before returning here to finish this letter. The rain struck my face so hard it felt like needles. Lightning burned across the sky again and again, illuminating the ocean in brief flashes of terrible clarity. Each time the light came, I saw the same sight. Waves, endless waves, black mountains rising higher than the masts. When they fall against the ship, the entire hull trembles as though it may break apart in that instant. The captain still stands near the shattered mast. His coat whips violently in the wind, yet he has not abandoned his post. He shouts orders that vanish into the storm before most of us can hear them. But we obey them anyway, because even now, men cling to the faint hope that discipline might somehow hold the sea at bay. Hope is a stubborn thing. It does not leave easily. A few sailors have begun lowering one of the lifeboats, though the waves make the attempt nearly impossible. The small boat rises and crashes against the side of the ship like a toy caught in the tide. I fear it will splinter before it ever touches the water. But still they try. The sea roars louder again. Another great wave strikes us. The ship tilts sharply to port, and for a moment I am certain she will not rise again. The lantern swings wildly. Ink splashes across the page. I pause until the ship steadies once more, though I do not know how much longer she can hold. It is strange what the mind chooses to remember in moments like these. Not the fear, not the thunder, but the quiet pieces of life left behind. I find myself thinking of home, of mornings when the air was warm and still, when the smell of bread drifted from the kitchen window and the world felt simple and certain. I think of my father standing by the harbor, watching the ships depart. He never spoke many words, but I remember the way he nodded to me the day I first sailed away, as though he understood the sea would become part of my life. Perhaps he also knew it might one day take it. I think of my mother as well. She always worried when storms rolled across the coast. She would sit by the window until the wind quieted, whispering small prayers beneath her breath. If she could see the storm tonight, I believe she would pray until morning. And I think of you. If this letter reaches the hands it was meant for, then perhaps you are reading it somewhere far from the ocean's reach. Perhaps the world around you is calm, and the air smells of fields instead of salt. If that is so, then I am glad. Because no one who loves the sea truly understands how merciless it can become. Another tremor shakes the ship. The water has reached the cabin door now. It pushes beneath the wood in thin streams, spreading across the floor toward the table where I write. My hands tremble, though I cannot tell if it is from cold or fear, perhaps both. Voices shout above deck again. I hear someone cry that the stern is sinking lower. The ship groans like a living thing in pain. We have entered the final hour. Still, there is a strange calm settling over my thoughts. When a man realizes the end may truly be near, the mind stops struggling against it. Instead, it begins to observe the world more clearly than ever before. I notice small things now. The way the lantern flame dances in the wind, the smell of salt soaking into the parchment, the distant creak of ropes pulling against broken masts. These sounds will likely fade soon. The sea will swallow them just as it swallows everything else. I have placed this letter inside a small glass bottle taken from the galley. When I finish writing, I will seal it tightly and cast it into the water. Perhaps the currents will carry it far from this storm. Perhaps it will drift for months, years even, until one day someone walking along a quiet shore will notice it half buried in sand. They will open it out of curiosity, and when they read these words, they will know that on this terrible night, far from land, a ship and her crew fought the sea until the very end. The water is rising faster now. It reaches the legs of the table. The lantern flickers one last time. I can hear the captain shouting again above the roar of the wind. Some men are jumping overboard. Others refuse to leave the ship. I do not know which choice is wiser, but I must finish now. The bottle waits beside me. If the sea chooses to spare this small piece of paper, then let it carry one final message across the years. Tonight the ocean has taken our ship, but it has not taken our story. And if these words survive the storm, then somewhere in the darkness of this endless sea, a sailor's final thoughts are still drifting toward shore.